Okay, so continuing lessons over solving inequalities, still going over 1 and 2 step. Just remember the big thing about inequalities is as you're solving, if you multiply or divide by a negative, then you need to flip the symbol, reverse it, whatever terminology you want to use. So for number 1, the only operation to get x by itself is adding 9. The inverse of addition is to subtract 9 to both sides. So I have x because the 9's cancel, less than because I didn't multiply or divide by negative. 15 minus 9 is positive 6. Number 2, I see subtracting 3. The inverse of subtracting 3 is to add 3 to both sides. So I have x is greater than or equal to, because I didn't multiply or divide by a negative, so it stays greater than or equal to. Negative 6 plus 3 is negative 3. Number 3, the operation I see is multiplication. 3 times x. The inverse of multiplying is to divide. I'm going to divide by 3 to both sides. Since I did not divide by a negative, less than or equal to stays less than or equal to. Negative 27 divided by positive 3 is negative 9. Number 4, I see dividing by 7. The inverse of dividing is multiplying, so I'm going to multiply both sides by 7. So x, because the 7's cancel, is less than, because I didn't multiply or divide by negative, so it stays less than. Negative 3 times 7 is negative 21. So number 5 and 6, obviously a little segue there, don't forget. When I have negative 8 times x, the inverse of multiplying is to divide by negative 8. Hint, hint, I divided by a negative, so that means it flips from greater than to less than. 40 divided by negative 8 is negative 5. So this is the case when I would flip it. Number 6, I see dividing by negative 4. The inverse of dividing is to multiply by negative 4. So I'm going to multiply both sides by negative 4, where I have x is, be careful here, I multiplied by a negative, so I am going to flip from greater than or equal to less than or equal to. Negative 9 times negative 4, which is positive 36. So be careful in those cases. So let's jump into 2-step equations involving, just remember to follow SADMAP, which is take care of any subtraction or addition first before you take care of any multiplication or division. So right here, before I can divide by 4, I need to take care of this minus 7. Subtracting by 7, the inverse is to add 7 to both sides. So I have 4x is greater than, because I haven't multiplied or divided by a negative. 5 plus 7 is 12. And then the inverse of multiplying by 4 is to divide by 4 to both sides. I did not divide by a negative, so it stays greater than, and 12 divided by 4 is positive 3. Number 8. I cannot divide by negative 2 until I take care of adding 2. So the inverse of adding 2 is to subtract 2. So I have negative 2x is less than or equal to. Negative 18 minus 2 is negative 20. Then I would divide by negative 2 to both sides. Dividing by that negative, flip this from less than or equal to greater than or equal to. Negative 20 divided by negative 2 is positive 10. To continue more practice and incorporate some number lines. Number 9 here. Before I can multiply by 3, I have to take care of that adding 7. So I'm going to, inverse of adding 7 is to subtract 7. So I have c over 3 is greater than 5½ minus 7, which my brain and fractions right now are not working. 5½ is negative 1½. Which I'm just going to change to negative 3/2. Sorry. The inverse of dividing by 3 is to multiply by 3. I did not multiply by negative, so it stays greater than. Negative 3/2 times 3 is negative 9/2. And I'm not going to worry about the number line. Number 10. Before I can divide by 2, I have to take care of the 7 out front. The opposite of positive 7 is to subtract 7. So I have 2p is less than, negative 14 minus 7 is negative 21. I don't know why, 6, 7. I don't know why it's coming out to odd numbers. That's right? 6, 7, 21. Then I divide by 2. I did not divide by negative, so it stays less than. Negative 21 over negative 2 doesn't simplify, so I'm just going to leave it like that. Or you can change it to a decimal, which would be negative, my goodness, my brain, negative 10.5. So I'm just going to do number 11. We're going to cross out number 12 because that's a multi-step, which is not the purpose of this lesson. But if I look at number 11, this is the exception to SADMAP. Normally we would take care of adding 3, but this parentheses right here messes that up. So we need to distribute first. So I do negative 3 times x is negative 3x. Negative 3 times positive 3 is minus 9. So I have greater than or equal to 7. So it just kind of cleans it up, and then it becomes a 2-step. So now I can add 9 to both sides. Negative 3x is greater than 7.5 plus 9 is 16.5. These are not coming out to pretty numbers. And then I divide by negative 3. Since I divided by negative 3, it flips this sign to less than. And 16.5, oh my goodness, 16.5 divided by negative 3 is negative 5.5 for whatever reason. Okay, number 13, the same thing, the exception to the rule. I am going to show you a different way on this one. Here, I distributed the negative 3 first, but here, I'm sure I've shown you this before. Instead of distributing that 2, which adds a step, I can divide by that 2 to both sides, which I know kind of messes it up a little bit, but it's n minus 5 is less than or equal to negative 7 divided by 2 is negative 7 halves. Then I would add 5 to both sides. N is less than or equal to negative 7 halves plus 5 is 1.5. Number 14 is also the exception to the rule. I would normally take care of that 18, but since I see dividing by 2 in the way, I'm going to multiply by 2 to both sides. So 18 minus n is less than or equal to 6 times 2 is 12. To take care of this 18, I would subtract 18. And I have negative n is less than or equal to 12 minus 18 is negative 6. To get rid of this negative in front of the n, I'm going to divide by negative 1, which does flip this sign to greater than or equal to negative 6 divided by negative 1, which would be positive 6.